Welcome to Digimon.
Hello and welcome to Digimon and welcome to yet another deck profile on the channel. If you're liking this content, make sure to like, subscribe and ding that notification bell so you're not missing out on any of the latest content. I'm going to go through this deck profile as quick as I can, guys, because I was actually just recording something on my lunch break and it didn't record, so I'm doing this as quickly as I can before I go back to doing adult responsibility working stuff. Anyways, this is my WarGreymon Toolbox list that I'm going with at the moment. This is very much kind of an inspiration from B-Boy Stunner. We were having a chat on both his toolbox deck profile and our WarGreymon Raid OTK profile for BT16, and he was saying, you know, our toolbox I think is the way to go, and I think it possibly could be, so I wanted to try and make my own list for it. Starting with the eggs, we've gone for Ukkomon from BT14. Lets us get a draw whenever a security is removed, and the reason we've gone for this Ukkomon specifically is because it has a generic inheritable effect that our rookie edition Ukkomon can take advantage of, rather than it needing a certain tribal name. So Ukkomon, I'll have to admit, when I first thought about putting Ukkomon into a Greymon list, there was a small part of me that died, because I do not like Ukkomon. But I have to admit, he's a good card. He's a very good card. You know, costs 1 to digivolve on top of our eggs, but that's not really an issue. You can choke the opponent on the first turn. The main thing is when something moves out of the breeding area, and that includes himself when he moves from the breeding area, he gets a search off to kind of search a Digimon or a Tamer, so it actually can search out Yuya, which is otherwise unsearchable by all Greymon cards other than the BT11 Ukkomon X. So it does a really good job at kind of speeding things up and giving us a little element of rookie rush as well. Continuing, sorry, I've got hiccups now as well. This is great on a time-sensitive thing. Then we've also got our other rookies. So we've got the BT12 Ukkomon, still the best searching Ukkomon that we've got. Reveals 4, adds an Omnimon or a Greymon and a Tamer with Tie in its name, so fantastic. And then also has the inheritable of the 1000 for our Omnimons and Greymons all turns, which just helps us have a little bit of extra juice when we swing. Then we've also got the BT14 Ukkomon, helps us with late game recovery with its start of main effect. If we've got Tie on board, digivolving into a Greymon for free, which works really well with our BT5 Greymon in particular, because it then means we're gaining 2 memory when we digivolve into that BT5. You know, so even if we've been left on 1, we can then head up to 3 memory and just continue doing what we need to do. Then also has that inheritable of 2000 DP, which just gives us that huge boost for when we're swinging in, raiding and taking names. Then we've also got the BT9 Ukkomon X. I did consider putting the BT11 one in, but it's just so awkward to play with. You kind of need to play very specific Greymons that can digivolve on top of it. Your BT9 Greymon X can't digivolve on top of it. I just think in general, unless BT11 Greymon X gets a semi-limit or a complete kind of removal from the ban list, which I don't think it will anytime soon, as much as I would love it to, I think red base versions of Greymon are just the better way to go. You know, but BT9 Ukkomon X helps us search out our Greymons, our Omnimons and our X-Antibodies. It's our only way of searching X-Antibody, which is a very integral part of some of our combos. Then going into the level 4s, so we've got our 2-2-2 ratio of non-Greymon X's. So we've got the ST1 Greymon, the BT12 Greymon and the BT5 Greymon all at 2 copies. ST1 obviously is enough said. Security attack +1 helps with that aggression and that aggro. Then the BT12 one gives us a 1000 DP inheritable boost as it does its Ukkomon counterpart, and then also helps us play out a Tie for free if we don't have one, which is great because Tie is an integral part of the game plan, gives us blocker, gives us memory gain, and helps us do that late game recovery with the aforementioned BT14 Ukkomon. Then we've also got the BT5 Greymon, which helps us with that late game recovery with that gain 1 memory if you've got Ukkomon in the Digivolution cards, and then also gives us a nice juicy 2000 DP boost if it's within the stack. Then onto the Greymon X's, we've got 3 copies of Greymon X from BT9. It helps us with protection so long as we've got 2 different Digivolution sources of the same level within our stack. So you can use it multiple times in the turn. You can't use it multiple times within one effect. So it doesn't protect you from, say, a Leviamon pop that pops twice with one effect. But it does protect you multiple times in one turn. The actual protection itself is not once per turn. Then we've got the BT11 Greymon X, which, as I've mentioned before, I would love to see come back in a semi-limit, you know, as a nice compromise, but I don't think it will. Does give us protection if we've got X-Antibody underneath, and then also gives us our your turn protection effect, your turn Digivolution cost reduction effect, reducing the cost of our level 5s depending on the amount of colours they've got, which is really good. Whole reason it got limited. Then we've got the BT12 Metal Greymon, which this is the main reason why BT11 Greymon X was limited, because of the fact that he's a 2-color Digimon, so it reduces by 2, only costs 1, and it's an integral part of the deck. It has raid, lets us play out Tamers when a attack target is switched. That's all turns, so if you're blocking or if you are raiding, it will play out a Tamer. And that's an irrespective of name as well, so it's any Tamer, which is really cool. And has piercing as the inheritable, which is why it's got a really good combo where you can raid with it, trigger X-Antibody, go into, raid with it, play out a Yuya, use the X-Antibody, go into Metal Greymon X, gain the 2000 off of the Yuya and the option protection, gain the 3000 and security attack +1 off of the Metal Greymon X, and now you've got piercing, beating over pretty much anything in your wave with just a level 5, which is fantastic. I'll just basically explain Metal Greymon X from BT9 by explaining that combo. So due to the time sensitive nature that I'm currently under, we'll skip over. So we'll go to Metal Greymon Alteris mode next. A free Digivolution on top of our Metal Greymon. Does pop something of 5000 DP or less if we've got a Tamer in play, and that's irrespective of name or colour, so really great effect. And then also has the same inheritable as the BT9 Greymon X. So it helps us with further protection stuff as well. Then going on to our level 6s, we've got 3 copies of the BT12 WarGreymon, still the single best WarGreymon card that has ever been printed for the time being. Has raid inherently, gains 3000 DP and reboot when you digivolve into it, and then also unsuspends whenever an attack target is switched, whether that be a block or a raid, defensive or offensive. It does a fantastic job and is your main kind of OTK tool. It's the one that's going to do all of the damage before potentially either swinging for game itself if you've managed to chip away enough stuff at the beginning of the game, or using BT5 Omnimon to swing for game on top of it. Then going into our BlackWarGreymons, we've got 2 BlackWarGreymon from BT8 as well as 2 BlackWarGreymon X from BT11. Main reason I've done this is I get frustrated when I don't have X-Antibody to hand to trigger our BlackWarGreymon X effect. So the way I thought to get around that is to just have our BlackWarGreymon, and digivolve on top of it with the BlackWarGreymon X to make sure we've got that effect live. He's still great as well, has Tamer removal, has, removes Digimon up to a play cost of 6, so you can remove a Tamer and a Digimon, or 2 Digimon, or 2 Tamers, potentially, so can be really good. Obviously, you've got to be careful with some matchups if you're going against Numemon. If they've got the right Numemon out, they'll just play stuff out or search stuff off of the deletions, but you still can, help clear boards with BT8 BlackWarGreymon. Also unsuspends when he deletes something, which is really cool. Then BlackWarGreymon X is still an absolute menace once he's on the board. Has reboot, can redirect, so you can technically block twice with him, which is really good. And then also, if you've got BlackWarGreymon or X-Antibody underneath you, when he unsuspends on the opponent's turn, he will then pop something of the lowest play cost, which, if it's a protectionless Magnamon X, will be that Magnamon X. It'll survive with Armor Purge, but at least you've taken out that Magnamon X. And if they don't have one in hand, then, you've got them. Then going on to the level 7s, which I've potentially considered cutting, just because I'm kind of going more kind of Rookie Rush into level 6s. So I've thought about potentially cutting them. I don't know yet though. Is BT5 Omnimon, because again it helps us with that OTK. It can be a big body of all of its own. And then we've also got the BT5 Omnimon X as well, which is really cool because I think with its opponent's turn effect, where you strip sources from it to end an attack, you can end the Magnamon X's attack before it's gotten its protection, and if it's got its protection, I think you still do end the attack because you're ending the attack itself rather than affected the Digimon maybe. I don't know, I'd need to check that. Obviously Digimon doesn't work like other card games like say Yu-Gi-Oh! It doesn't have like a battle phase, so you're still within the main phase when you're doing any sort of combat. So I'm not too sure there. I would need to possibly check that. Then going into the Tamers, we've got the 2 Yuya, which was very much B-Boy. I've stolen that from you, sorry pal. But Yuya I think is fantastic for this meta. Gives you that boost and that option protection, so if you've got a spiteful armor player looking to Heaven's Judgment you after you've managed to take out his nice shiny Magnamon X that he spent spent, 120 quid for the alt art, then you can just be like, Heaven's Judgment, what's that? Pfft, it's just a breeze. Then we've got the BT12 tie as well. Helps us with our memory gain because it's got that cool boy-esque effect of every time we go into a Greymon or an Omnimon, we gain a memory. Also, start of main gives 1000 DP and blocker to any of our Ukkomon or Greymon, so helps us with being defensive, which is really good. Then we've got 2 copies of Red Memory Boost. The reason I've done this is because all of our rookies, and other than the Ukkomon, and up to level 6s are red. And I think with Omnimon, with Greymon, when you're trying to search through it, you want to be searching deeper more often than not. So revealing 4 cards instead of 2 like you would with a training, I think works better more often than not. And then obviously that gain 2 memory thing, so long as they don't have a memory floodgate out, does the same thing just in a different way to the training cards. So I've gone with the memory boosts for the time being, and I think it does work well. We don't necessarily need to search our options. And we can't search our Tamers anyway with the training cards because the Tamers are black. Greymon problems. Then we've got the 2 copies of the BT9 X-Antibody, still very integral for a lot of our combos, especially with the Metal Greymon going into Metal Greymon X raid combo. Also can't be trashed, so that is very good against stuff like Galgamon, who utilize Zudamon a lot, or decks like Jellymon. Still an incredible card. Also gives you a cheeky memory if it's checked in security. Just bear in mind, if it is checked in security and you're going up against a Galgamon player, you're in for a bad time because they're just going to continue their OTK. But then we've also got 1 copy of Crimson Blaze and 1 copy of Hades Force. They are in here just for standard removal. The Crimson Blaze obviously helps us with going up against Numamon because it will delete their board because their board is weenie and then they can't play anything afterwards. Also, you'll seldom be playing it for 6 against Numamon because of the fact it reduces play cost for each of your opponent's Digimon, which is awesome. And Hades Force, I've kind of gone back to it because in security it will smash a Magnamon X because it deletes the highest DP Digimon in security. It's still not as good if you're just using it, so I honestly might change it for a Dark Gaia Force, but for the time being I'll try Hades Force and see if it can get back in my good books. It hasn't been in my good books since BT12, I'll be honest. Once we got into maybe BT15, it's not been in my good books actually, but the last time I properly remember it being a really good card was BT12. But yeah, that's the list, guys. I've just gone over 1 minute of my lunch break, so damn. But anyways, I will be heading back to work, back to the adult world. If you like this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell, and we'll see you on a Friday for the next deck profile. But until then, keep it digital.